Around-the-clock medical watch has been ordered for Cesar Chavez, head of the United Farm Workers Union. He has been on a fast protesting the use of pesticides.
The Farm Workers Union blames pesticides used on the grapes as the cause of cancer and other health disorders such as birth defects and miscarriages.
This man refuses to eat so that all of us can continue to eat and our children continue to eat with health and well-being.
The average life expectancy of a farm worker is somewhere around 49 years.
The only way the farm workers were going to be able to get any type of improvement in their working conditions had to be through a labor organization. There was just no other way.
Picket lines have been put around supermarkets in 23 major cities, and the boycott has received wide political support.
If we're having an election, we're going to be here for 10 years. You're not going to be here 10 years. You cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore.
Look at little Caesar. Well, you 40 little commie. Hey, who do you want in Russia? Who do you got in China? You stink. You smell. You're a lousy bunch of commies.
It's a paid damn plan to come and beat the hell out of us. It's not difference of opinion.
Today is day 30 of Cesar Chavez's water fast. Today he's lost approximately 30 pounds to about 17% of his body weight. His endurance and physical stamina is rapidly deteriorating. I believe we are getting to a critical point of his fast here.
About all we can do as doctors is give him the facts in terms of permanent damage or even death.
Towards the end, he was in so much pain. I remember people would come in to comfort him. He ended up comforting them.
Once social change begins, it cannot be reversed.
With that film, one of my jobs as the director was to identify the emotional core of the story and then figure out the narrative around it. And what I recognized was in the footage of the fast that Cesar Chavez took, and there's a couple of reasons why I told the story. One, in the U.S., his story had largely been forgotten. People forgot about this very important civil rights and labor rights leader. Today, farm workers in the United States were having the same problem. So I thought there was a contemporary relevance to tell this guy's story. And I described it as the untold chapter of civil rights and labor rights in America. And I figured out that the way to tell this chapter or this story was through a fast that he undertook very late in his life. He had been fighting for farm workers for 30 to 40 years, and at the age of 61, things had returned to the problems that existed before. And so I inherited this footage of this fast, and I thought, that fast is the story that the container, if you will. I thought that's going to be the main narrative spine. There was a question related to, when you edit, do you give up some of the story? And Chow Wei, keep me on time, let me know when I'm going along. So I come at this documentary storytelling really as a storyteller, as opposed to somebody who delivers information or somebody who creates video textbooks. And I think recently, in the last 2 decades or so, the type of documentary storytelling or the range has expanded a lot. Where we used to think of it as documentaries as kind of a variation of news stories and news documentaries. And it's really expanded to what I would call, to include nonfiction storytelling. So that's how I came to the perspective to tell this as a nonfiction story, not just to deliver information and facts. And so I started thinking, well, how am I going to structure this interestingly to engage an audience so that I'm just not giving them historical facts around this fast. And when I looked at the fast, I thought, this is the story, but how am I going to make it interesting? So if we go to the next slide, what I discovered and inherent in this, in the story of this fast, as the fast days progress, and he gets weaker and weaker, and his family gets more concerned about him, and he doesn't know when he's going to stop, there was this inherent escalating conflict that gives the story tension and makes you want to watch it. It's kind of like suspense. If I just said, today is day 1, this happens. Today is day 2, this happens. Day 3, day 4. It's not very story-like, it's just information. But I thought, as the days increase, it's more serious and more serious. So at first, when I set out to find editors, I thought, I have this footage, I want to make sure we're on the same page, that we can structure this footage in this way. The problem, and this when it comes to the nonfiction storyteller. The person who shot the footage of this fast, they didn't start shooting until day 23. They weren't there at day 1. So there's 2 questions. And I had a version of the film where the fast starts at day 23, and I would screen it for friends, and everybody was confused, right? Why are you starting in the middle of a fast? And I realized I had to reconstruct the entire fast with the footage, and again, with the help of an editor. I had the idea, but physically, I didn't have the skills to do it. So we had to pull in footage to create this. It's almost like you're setting the stopwatch or setting the countdown. And so this is stuff, well, I had the idea and I can make this graph. I couldn't execute this with the images without an editor. And I couldn't even embark on the project really without always consulting an editor, say, hey, can we do it? Do we have the footage that will make it look this way? So this is the idea of this fast. I want to show you how we created the impression, or how we set up the fast to put the audience there at the beginning, but not really without lying and saying, this is day 1, everybody. But we created the sense that you're there at the beginning of the fast, using footage that we had to, it's almost like skin grafting, you know, using from another section. And again, I did this as a nonfiction storyteller, not as a journalist, and not as somebody who's creating a document or evidence for a court of law. So let's go to the next slide and roll the setting up of the fast, which functions like day 1. And again, it was necessary to have the editor really carry this out.